A life-changing moment that will sit with me forever. So all ended a couple of months ago and I only now feel comfortable sharing it. For background, I'm a 24-year-old woman living in Australia and work at an establishment that caters for an adult audience. One night as my shift is coming to a close, one of the patrons asks to buy me a drink, which I accept because employer policy. I talk him up to a couple of expensive drinks for the two of us, have a quick conversation and make my excuses about my shift being over, but he should come back to see me soon. I feel his gaze undressing me in his mind as he licks the splash of his drink from his upper lip. He stands up and with this creepy grin asks to walk me to my car. Now I'm no idiot. I know never to put myself in that position and politely decline and tell him I might see him next time. I walk out past our biggest bouncer and the guy doesn't follow me. Great, nothing extraordinary, just standard par for the course in my profession. But sadly this isn't where our story ends. Oh no, for this creep it's only just the beginning. I'm off for a week after that night, but when I come back into work I'm told a patron has been coming in every night for the last week asking for me. Says he wants to buy me another drink. Naively I think, oh great, a bigger pay this week, and get set for my shift. The night rolls on and who should roll in but our man of the hour, and he asks for me right. So I saunter over and he buys me a drink. The whole time I'm sitting there with him he just has this creepy grin on his face, not like *Zool undressing creep grin, that's just normal. No, this was the kind of grin where he knows something you don't and is very pleased with himself about that fact. So we're talking and I'm getting him ordering himself drinks and trying to upsell him where I can. About half an hour goes by and I make my excuses to leave so I can try to spread the tips around. But this guy isn't having it. He won't let me leave, and the more I insist the angrier he gets. He's practically hissy at me by the time I give a look to one of the bouncers, who promptly comes over and defuses the situation, giving me an opportunity to walk away. Phew, crisis averted. Wrong. Bouncer doesn't throw him out, just gives me a buffer, so this guy starts following me around the place, even attempting to walk into an employee-only area, which is where another bouncer finally notices and kicks him out. I finish my shift and walk over to my car. There he is, sitting on the bonnet of my car. How he knew it was my car I will never know. He wants me to give him a ride and tells me how sexy I look. He's spewing greasy slimeball creep lines at this point and I'm not interested. I try to give him a hint nicely and decline to give him a ride, but again he just turns mean and grabs me by my arm insisting I give him a ride. I tell him to F off and jam my key in his shoulder as hard as I can. He lets go and I push him with all of my might so he falls down. I jump in my car, lock the door and shove that key in the ignition. He's back up and banging on the window angrily to let him in. And I mean hard, so hard I think his hands or my window might break. I gun the accelerator and I'm out of there. When I get 5 minutes down the road and am sure I'm not being followed, I pull over to the side of the road and call back to work. I tell them what's happened and alert them that the other girls need to be careful leaving tonight. As I hang up the phone I break into tears. Now, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been grabbed before and the sad truth is I probably will be again. But you never get used to it, you know? I eventually compose myself, pull back onto the road and head home. I cry myself to sleep. Next morning word has gotten around and owner calls me to make sure I'm okay. I assure him I am, but he insists I take some time off in case this creep comes back. He wants to put some distance between us, makes sense. A week goes by, then 2, he's coming in every night asking about me and being told I quit and don't work there anymore. A lie to get him to stop coming in, you know. But he just keeps coming in and asking, clearly not buying it, and then suddenly 2.5 weeks and he stops. Great, I am really needing money at this point, so I'm happy to be able to go back to work the following week. Time goes on and everything seems to go back to normal, same old chancers, but the good kind that lead to higher paychecks. Abusive guy doesn't come back in, I'm happy. I start being forgetful though, I think I leave a door closed when I leave the house but it's open when I get back. Lights on or off, food left out. Things ending up in different places than I remember putting them sometimes moments before. I'm losing it, but it's probably just the stress of everything that's gone down. One of my close friends who works with me reassures me that it's normal after being grabbed like that and it will pass. This keeps up for a month until one day I head out to work, get 15 minutes down the road and realize I forgot some clothes I'll need that night at work. I head back home only to find the lights in my front room on and the TV visible as on from the outside. I really am losing it. Good thing I came back, I guess. I head inside, grab my stuff, make sure to turn the TV off and the light out and head to the door. Suddenly I freeze. There standing blocking the door is the creep that grabbed me. I'm stunned, jaw dropped on the floor. Then after what seems like a lifetime of standing in silence staring at each other, him smiling that FANG smile, I scream, what the F asterisk asterisk asterisk. I'm screaming for him to get out and ask him what he's doing here, how he knows where I live, all in one jumbled mouthful of confusion. He just stands there with that smile on his face while I'm loudly freaking out but stupidly not moving. I start gasping for air in a mixture of panic attack and bewilderment, then he decides to speak in my wake. The words ooze out of him and leave me chilled. "Welcome home, honey, you're back early." A switch goes off in my head, I throw everything I have on me at him and sprint to the back door. I'm out ski. I leg it faster than I have in my life, screaming bloody M asterisk writer as I go. No one helps, stupid apathic society. I hide in some bushes around the corner, tears running down my face, gasping for air. I check my pocket and my keys are still there. No phone though, I threw that at stalker creep along with everything else. I sneak back to my house, jump in my car and nope the F out. I head to work, tell them what's happened and call the cops. Cops head to my house and send others to my work. Stalker guy is gone when they turn up, they search the house and turns out he's been living in my crawl space. I'm paranoid that's what all those doors and lights and misplaced things was about. I pack up whatever I can fit in my car while cops are still there, that they'll let me take, and I drive. Haven't been back since. I moved states, knew everything. So creepy stalker guy, let's not ever meet again. Edit, quick update. I took my car in to get checked by a mechanic as some commenters suggested. Nothing was found. I have been in touch with the police and they are reporting that while they have his photo from security footage, they haven't been able to track him down as yet. That means he's still out there somewhere and I still have no idea how he tracked me. I probably won't update again, but I just wanted to thank everyone for their support, it means a lot. At first I thought I was going crazy, but now I'm pretty sure somebody has been entering my apartment while I'm at work. Update, changed my locks the other day, and set up my security cameras. So far nothing else has happened, and I haven't caught anything on the security cameras other than my cat doing his thing during the day when I'm gone. My landlord got back to me about the security footage from the front door, and said that the only strangers she saw were buzzed into the building by residents, so no weirdos or previous tenants with keys. The police are still patrolling my neighborhood quite often, which definitely makes me feel more secure. Also, for those of you who asked, this is my cat, http://imager.com/ezdikxd. Sorry for any errors, I'm on mobile. Edit, thank you all for your responses, kind words, and advice. I am at work right now, so it is hard for me to be able to respond to everything, but I just wanted to thank and update you all. I called the police this morning and talked to an officer who basically told me that as for right now, there is nothing really that they can do unless this escalates. But he did say that I was right to call in so that they are aware that something might be happening. He also said that getting security cameras is a good idea, as well as getting my landlord to change the locks. He also said that they will send a patrol car down my street every once in a while to make sure there is nobody lurking about. Also, TLDR, someone has been breaking into my house while I'm at work and it has been happening for over a year, and I just now had something happen that makes me believe I'm not just being paranoid. So this has been happening for about a year and a half now, and tonight something happened that finally made me, and my boyfriend, realize that I wasn't imagining things. About a year and a half ago, after living in my apartment for over 5 years, I all of a sudden started noticing that things would be out of place when I would get home from work. Things that almost seemed out of place on purpose, to mess with my OCD. Sometimes I would notice knives that were put back into the knife block the wrong way, or little ornaments that I have around my house being turned to face the wrong way. Sometimes my clothes were hung up in my closet the wrong way. Little things like that where I would feel something was off, but there was no way to prove it, and in all honesty could have just been me being absent-minded when putting things away. After a couple months of things randomly being out of place, and always having that creeped out feeling, things stopped going out of place, and I put it to the back of my mind and stopped being so paranoid, and moved on with my life. That is, until about 2 weeks ago. For the past couple weeks, my cat has seriously been trying to tell me something when I have gotten home from work. Any of you who have a cat will know that exact meow. It's not an "I'm hungry" or an "I'm p***said because you have been at work all day" meow, but a "OMG you will never believe what happened" meow, if that makes sense. I didn't really think anything of it, because cats can be jerks sometimes, and I just assumed he was just bored and wanting to complain. The other day when I came home from work, I noticed a pair of balled-up socks that do not belong to me sitting on my bedroom floor. My boyfriend came over the next night, and I told him he had left a pair of his socks here when he had stayed over on the weekend. He looked at the socks and said that they were not his. My heart sunk, and so did his. We both knew that someone had been coming into my house again, and that I probably wasn't imagining it the first time. A few days later, I came home from work and found a bag from a Lingear store on top of my couch. It was empty. This bag had come from inside my house, as I had just bought a bathing suit from that store a couple weeks prior, and the receipt for that was in the bag. At first I thought my cat might have dragged it there, but upon inspecting the bag, there were no teeth marks, as well as my cat couldn't have opened my closet door and gone into the paper/cardboard recycling that I keep in there, on the top shelf. The final, and perhaps the most unsettling thing happened tonight. My boyfriend met me after work and we went out for dinner. We went back to my apartment after, and I went to unlock my door, and noticed that it was already unlocked. Locking the door when I leave my house is the one thing that I am most OCD about. I don't just double and triple check it, I quadruple check it. It is not just a habit I have, but something that is deeply ingrained into me. Everyone who knows me knows this about me, as I even do it to their doors. I have to check 4 times or I get an icky feeling. Even my boyfriend was on red alert when he noticed my door was unlocked. We entered my house and I was checking to see if anything was out of place. He ran to the sliding glass door and tugged it, and it opened right up. I never leave that door unlocked. He witnessed me lock it on Sunday, when I closed the door because it was getting too cold. He saw me check it 4 times. I have not opened it since then. We are both convinced somebody has been in my house. Whoever has been coming in somehow has a key. The fact that they left the sliding door unlocked makes me think that maybe they are planning to come back with ill intentions. If they have a key, why would they need to unlock the sliding door, unless they don't want to be identified by the security cameras at the front door of my building? Either way, I have already ordered a security system, but unfortunately it's not gonna arrive for a few days. Any suggestions on anything I can do in the meantime to keep safe? Also, what do you guys think? Am I just being paranoid? Or should I go with my gut on this one? Every year a kid in our town goes missing. We just found out why. For 20 years, a kid would go missing in our town each summer. They'd vanish without a trace, and without evidence of foul play, nor proof that anyone had actually died. No bodies were recovered during the investigations, nor was anyone retrieved alive. By all means, they seem to have disappeared into thin air. Naturally, such occurrences come along a multitude of conspiracy theories, ranging from monsters to kidnappers with supernatural powers. Most of us, however, blame the lake. It was a beautiful piece of water hidden in the idyllic woods of Eberacum. Despite appearing perfectly still on the surface, there had always been a strong undercurrent around the center of the lake. It was theorized that it was caused by an underground river, but thus far, no one had been able to prove it. So, after multiple ignored warnings to stay away, the police simply put up a barrier around the center, where the current felt the strongest. Me and my friends were some of the many people to go swimming there despite the rumors. We absolutely loved the lake, with its crystal clear waters and bizarre lack of animal life. We'd spend many every summer there, never leaving until our skins had turned crispy red, or by the tempting promise of ice cream from our parents. We were young, and we felt invincible. Years passed, and the 3 of us were about to graduate high school. While we were naturally excited to move on to college and new adventures, we desperately needed one last hurrah to say goodbye. So, in the summer of 2019, we decided to solve the mystery of the missing children. Thanks to our part-time jobs, we'd been able to save up a decent amount of cash. We used some of it to purchase cheap bird-watching cameras. Our plan was to place them in the areas where the kids had last been seen. It just so happened that most of those areas were within Eboracum Woods, concentrated around the lake. The whole area was weirdly shaped, which meant we'd have to keep an eye on parts of the lake ourselves. The center in particular was hard to get a view of from shore. We thought ourselves so clever to have come up with such a genius plan. Little did we know that the police had thought of the exact same scheme, only without results. Nevertheless, we set out on our venture to save our town, thinking nothing could stop us. By the time we'd placed our cameras, no one had gone missing. We were hoping to catch the moment as it happened, and swoop in to stop it. In hindsight, it was a poorly thought out plan, but we were teenagers, what else could one expect? We strategically put the cameras around the forest, and some by the water. Each day, we'd collect the recordings to check the footage. In addition, we'd camp out around the lake and just enjoy the weather. The summer went on with little incident until the first week of August. Then, a kid by the name of Alex Florence had inexplicably gone missing in the middle of the day. He'd last been seen throwing a ball around with his sister by the lake. He was only 7 years old. The police did their usual search, checking street cameras, and sending divers into the lake to search for drowned bodies. Still, nothing could be found. We went through the footage, but couldn't find anything. The only part we hadn't yet investigated was the center of the lake. I had just spent some extra money on a waterproof camera, and figured we could at least find out where the current went. We connected the camera to a flashlight, and tied it to a rope. We took a canoe, and paddled past the barriers, ready to finally solve the mystery. Though we couldn't see the bottom of the lake, we expected it to be around 50 feet deep. I tossed the camera into the warm waters, and measured the depth using the rope. Before long, it had sunk out of sight. 20 feet. 30 feet. 40 feet. 50. It had reached the supposed bottom. Yet, it kept sinking. Deeper and deeper. Within a few minutes, it had reached 100 feet. I looked at my friends in disbelief, wondering if it had been swept away. But, based on the direction of the rope, it was just going further down. Once our rope had reached the end of its length, we had no choice but to pull it back up. Hopefully, the footage could provide us with some answers. We eagerly returned home, and uploaded the recordings to my computer. The quality of the video was only semi-decent. At first, it showed the clear waters below, only lit up by the flashlight attached to the camera. It sank straight to the bottom at 50 feet, just as expected. Then, we saw something else. It was just a tiny hole that opened and closed, pulsating like a mouth trying to chew on something. It only opened for brief periods of time, which is probably why it went unnoticed for so long. Nevertheless, it produced a current that immediately sucked in our camera. It got pulled through a tiny tunnel, small enough for a child, but too narrow for an adult. The tunnel went on for another 20 feet or so, before opening up into a giant, underwater cave. There, it kept sinking deeper, until something horrific finally came into view. It was Alex Florence, the missing kid. He'd been partially digested by strange plants emerging from the cave wall. They reached out like tendrils, looking for food. The boy was little more than barren bones, only recognizable by the fragments of his clothes still there. The camera sunk even deeper. At last, we could see the cave floor. It was littered with hundreds, if not thousands of animal and human bones, left to be forgotten for all of eternity. That's when we pulled the camera back up. We'd reached our goal, but another kid had died. Next, we just handed the footage over to the police, and that was it. This year, when we visited our hometown for the holidays, the lake had been completely blocked off. We set out to have one last adventure, but the image of those bodies is something we'll never get over. https://www.facebook.com/richard.saxon.author. IK*LL people. I mentioned this story in a comment on another post and thought I may as well add in the details and make it my first post to this subreddit. And #X200B. This takes place in a fairly large city, roughly 8 or so years ago. I'm female and at the time I was in my mid-20s. There used to be a gay bar that did goth nights every Saturday night, and I would head out there fairly often with my friends. This night there was a group of about 5 of us that went together, plus we always ran into more people we knew once we got there. At some point I left my friends on the dance floor and went up to the bar to get another drink. It was pretty crowded, so the only space I could squeeze into was next to some guy on a bar stool at the very end of the counter. I ordered my drink and he looked over and said hello. And #X200B. He had a pretty interesting accent, so I asked him where he was from. He replied that he was originally from Ethiopia. We made small talk as I was waiting for my drink, and I commented that I had a neighbor as a child that was from Ethiopia as well. The exact details of the conversation are a bit hazy. It was years ago after all, and to be fair I wasn't paying super close attention at the time. So I'm not sure how the conversation went in this direction, but I do remember his words snapping my brain's focus back onto him. IK** led people there. And #X200B. Oh. Well. I awkwardly chuckled, thinking maybe this was just some weird drunk guy thinking he would say weird, creepy things to the goth girl at the bar. Maybe it was his really bad attempt at flirting? My drink arrived and I remember stirring it and trying to ease my way out of the conversation, but I was still waiting for my change. You used to K**LL people? He shook his head and replied casually, no, I still do. And #X200B. Aha! My change could not arrive fast enough. I tried another awkward laugh and made some snarky comment about how I was fat, and if he tried to K*LL me I'd fight back and sit on him. I don't know. I mean, I had no idea what to say in this situation. Again, casually, without any emotion in his voice, he replied, there's no trying. If I decide to K*LL someone, I K*LL them. My change finally arrived and I took my drink, which I had not let leave my hand or line of sight for an instant, excused myself and headed back over to my friends on the dance floor. I watched as he turned on his stool so he could keep an eye on me. He just sat there, sipping his own drink, never looking away. Finally, at some point I saw him put down his empty glass and move out the front door. I sighed in relief and continued on to enjoy my night. And #X200B. Several hours later the goth night was ending and the next theme DJ was taking over. My friends and I were saying our goodbyes and I started walking to the front door. I turned around to see the friend that had given me a ride was stuck in a conversation with another acquaintance, so I waited near the door, just inside the building. That's when he grabbed me. And #X200B. The guy from the bar dragged me in farther, into a dark corner out of line of the exit. I was in shock and couldn't make a sound at first as he pinned me to the wall, face pressed against it, and he twisted one of my arms behind my back. It seemed like an eternity he held me there, pushing himself up firmly behind me, almost like he was trying to hide me in even more shadows. There were no lights near us and no reason for anyone to walk by this corner. Even if I yelled, I wasn't sure if anyone would hear me since the DJ had started up. Somehow I managed to shove myself back against him once my fight instincts kicked in. In his surprise, his grip loosened just a bit and the angle he held me at relaxed, and I managed to shove my fist against his B**LLS. I have no idea to this day how I actually bent myself around in just the right way, but he doubled over and I ran. I grabbed my friend out of her conversation and breathlessly gave a Cliff Notes version of what happened as I dragged her to the back emergency exit. And #X200B. Before I could escape, I was stopped by security. He told me I couldn't go that way and had to leave through the front of the bar. I tried to explain to him that there was a guy up there that had tried to attack me, but he wouldn't listen, or just tuned it out or thought I was some drunk girl. Thankfully my friend and I managed to get the attention of a few other people we knew and we headed out the front as a group. I didn't see the guy anywhere, but I was terrified of getting through the dark parking lot to the car. I just knew he could be out there hiding somewhere. My friend and I ran as fast as we could, dove into the car, and she pulled out of the parking space before I could even get my seatbelt on. Creeper dude was nowhere to be seen. And #X200B. I checked the news the next day to see if there had been any other attacks or, God forbid, M***writers in the area, but there was nothing. I don't really remember much of his features, or what he was wearing or how he sounded, but I will never forget the emotionless, blank, matter-of-fact way he stated that EK** led people and the way his dark eyes stared at me like I was prey. And #X200B. I never went back to that bar. I'm a therapist, and my patients are accusing each other of abuse. Only one of them is telling the truth. ****, the most reliable sign, the most universal behavior of unscrupulous people is not directed, as one might imagine, at our fearfulness. It is, perversely, an appeal to our sympathy. /Martha Stout, the sociopath next door. They had to be the youngest married couple I've ever worked with. Her eyes were red with tears. His eyes were exhausted and defeated. I think I should start. Kiara sniffled through tears. It's just so hard to ask for help, you know? I understand, I said. Why don't you begin by telling me what brings you to my office today? Kiara took a deep breath and nodded slowly. She stammered. He hurts me. I was surprised to hear Lucas groan from the corner. Here we go again. Don't do that. Kiara shrieked. You promised you would be honest here. So did you, Lucas shot back. But apparently we're just here to agree that I'm an abuser like all of your other abusive exes, right? Kiara let out a loud sound, a mix between a sob and a shout. They were abusive. Right, and I saved you from them, said Lucas bitterly. Until I became your latest abuser. Don't do that. Kiara screamed. You are invalidating and minimizing my experience. Good Lord. Let's just take a step back here, I said, scooching my chair closer to distract them from each other. Lucas, would it be okay if we let Kiara finish her story? I understand these are extremely serious allegations, but I assure you I will not rush to judgment until I hear your side too, okay? He nodded, although his expression was not one of agreement. Thank you, Kiara stammered. It is so hard to speak my truth when he belittles me. Lucas opened his mouth, but I gave him a sharp look and he backed down. Kiara, you just said that Lucas hurts you, I said. Can you tell me more about that? She nodded and her eyes started welling with tears again. It's a type of punishment. Punishment? I asked. What kind of punishment? She winced and whispered, the slicer. The slicer? I repeated. What does that mean? She shook her head and buried her face in her hands. I don't want to talk about it. That's okay, I said quickly. Kiara, can you tell me more about what leads to this punishment? She looked back up. Yes, she said. He becomes angry when I call him out on his manipulation. What kind of manipulation? It's subtle, she said. It's called covert narcissistic abuse, and he fits all the red flags. Insensitive to my feelings, never apologizes or admits fault, needs constant attention from others. Oh, for Christ's sake. Just another moment, Lucas, I said, holding up my hand. I promise we'll get to you soon. Kiara, can you give me some examples of the manipulation? Well, he's B***sexual, she sniffled. And he spends almost all of his free time with his gay friend. Do you see what I'm saying? Lucas turned to me, exasperated. This is her version of abuse. Who spends that much time with a gay guy, she shouted. He's my friend. No, you do it to punish me, she said. It's a reminder that I'll never be enough to fully satisfy you. A warning that if I step out of line, you can always replace me in a heartbeat. Has there been infidelity? I asked. No, said Lucas. I would never. Who knows? Kiara interrupted him. He's like your little pet. You parade him around on social media just to make me jealous. You never post pictures of us. Lucas looked at me incredulously. Do you get it now? He said. Do you see how crazy this is? Just as I was about to begin asking Lucas some questions, the door to my office opened. Oh, sorry. A young, awkward-looking man in a FedEx uniform stood in the doorway, holding a few brown Prime boxes. Your front door was open. I heard voices in here. Wasn't sure if you wanted to sign, or... He looked around the room, finally noticing Lucas and his tearful wife. "Oh, it seems like this might not be a great time?" "Asterisk, you don't say," asterisk, I muttered, standing up to sign for the packages. "Just leave them in the lobby, please." He blushed and nodded, closing the door behind him. God, I needed an assistant. "Sorry about that," I said, sitting back down. "I just moved into this office, so things have been a little chaotic. Anyway, Lucas, I'd like for you to share your side of the story now." "Okay," he said quietly. "Well, first of all, I think she might be the one abusing me. She grabs me sometimes." "I do not." "Kiara," I said firmly. "Now we're going to give Lucas a chance to share." She looked like she was going to explode. Lucas rolled up his sleeves, revealing a series of bruises. "She grabs me when I try to leave after a fight," he said. "She accuses me of abandoning her." "He's lying." Kiara shrieked. "He does that to himself." "I'm just really afraid," he continued. "I asked for help on a forum, and a lot of people suggested she might have borderline personality disorder. I googled it and she has almost every symptom: crazy mood swings between sobbing and rage, thinks everyone is abusing or traumatizing her, a new crisis story every hour, and I swear to God, any slicing is 100% self-harm." "More armchair diagnosis," she cried. "Are you serious?" He threw his hands into the air. "You just called me a narcissist." "Look, you've obviously both done some research on the internet," I said. "But perhaps it would be better if we met separately? That way you each have a chance to share your side, uninterrupted." "No." They both protested at once. I raised my eyebrows. Then, at the same time, they spoke nearly the identical sentence. Asterisk, he'll manipulate you star dot forward slash asterisk, she'll manipulate you star dot. My eyes scanned back and forth between the two of them curiously. Hysterics versus irritation. Tears versus eye rolls. Slicer versus bruiser. Were their online diagnoses correct? Was this really the age-old dance between the borderline and the narcissist? Or was one of them lying? For the rest of the session, I listened to them make more accusations and more denials. To be completely honest, I still had no idea what was going on with them. If either of them was really in the cluster B spectrum, narcissist, sociopath, borderline, histrionic, it would take far more time to unravel the truth among all the manipulation and gaslighting. I actually have an optimistic view of cluster B recovery, but it's not going to happen with talk therapy, and it's certainly not going to happen in the midst of a dramatic relationship. That's like asking an alcoholic to begin recovery in the middle of a liquor store. At the end of the session, I stood up to walk them out of my office. Lucas exited first. Then, in the doorway, Kiara quickly leaned into my ear and whispered. Asterisk, he's going to K asterisk LL me star dot. I'll admit, that sent chills down my spine. When it comes to domestic violence, you never want to take statements like that lightly. So when I closed the door to my office, the first thing I did was reach for the phone to involve the police. But before I finished dialing, something caught my eye. There was a piece of paper sticking out from the couch cushion where Lucas had been sitting. I really didn't want them to come back later for a forgotten belonging, so I hurried over to examine it. But when I unfolded the piece of paper, I didn't find a forgotten belonging. Instead, I saw a hand-scrawled note. Asterisk, she's going to K asterisk LL me star dot. Backslash, part 2 backslash, https://www.reddit.com/r/nosleep/comments/afyz7s/m_r_therapist_r_accusing_each Backslash, patient file number 109 part 1 of 3 view more patient files backslash, https://www.reddit.com/r/dr_harper My private practice, http://drharpertherapy.com. Mommy sleeps in the basement, speak louder please. I put my hand up next to my ear from the back of the room, signaling that she would need to raise her voice. Asterisk, she took a deep breath. I could see anxiety turning her cheeks beet red, as strands of blonde hair began to fall out of the same nappy ponytail she wore every day. There was something about her so familiar, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. With her face glued to the paper, too afraid to make eye contact, she quickly sputtered out asterisk. "Hi, my name is Paisley Jackson, and this is my poem called My Family. Asterisk Paisley was a shy little girl. In fact, she was one of the quietest students I ever had in my 10 years of teaching. Which I guess being the youngest of 11 will do that to anyone. Surprisingly, she was very smart, unlike the rest of her siblings who were dumber than a box of rocks. Lord, the Jackson kids were such a headache, except for Paisley of course. I just wish I could have given her more opportunities to improve her future, asterisk. Asterisk, don't get me wrong, I tried to help Paisley, I really did. I gave her clothes, food, and even had funds lined up for her. But, living dirt poor in a shack out in the middle of the desert, was a bad hand to be dealt in life. Besides, no matter what I did, it wouldn't have made a difference. Everyone knows that the cycle of poverty is almost impossible to break, asterisk. Asterisk, I crossed my legs, pen in hand, preparing for yet another bland story about a family I'd never get to meet. If you've ever worked with underprivileged kids, you'd know that guardian involvement is quite rare. When it came to interest in their daughter's education, Paisley's parents were no exception, asterisk. I have two mommies. One named Betty who can make good spaghetti. I call her Mom, she's the one that's married to my dad Tom. One named Claire with pretty yellow hair. I call her Mommy, Dad calls her his project, his hobby. Asterisk, being smack dab in the middle of Utah, I've seen hundreds of polygamist families, so this didn't strike me odd. Besides, even though polygamy is illegal, I try to keep my nose in my own business, asterisk. Mom takes care of us all. She can do that because she's so tall. Mommy wears a pretty silver bracelet. She wears it because she's so famous. Asterisk, wouldn't be the first time I saw kids coming up with stories about celebrity parents to add excitement to their ordinary lives. I just didn't expect it to come from Paisley, asterisk. Mommy has me and Tommy. He's one of my older brothers. Mom is a lot older. She has all the others. Asterisk, I cringed. That meant that one of Paisley's mothers had given birth to 9 children. I couldn't imagine going through that many pregnancies, asterisk. Dad says me and Tommy are a gift from God. He'll never hit us with a rod. His pride and joy is Tommy, but he says the only person he truly loves is Mommy. Asterisk, I looked up from my grade book, with the line about a rod catching my attention. However, this wasn't the first time one of my students have accidentally reported abuse. Truth is, CPS picks and chooses who they want to help, asterisk. Mom is having another baby. She's mad Dad wants to name it Daisy. Mommy can't have no more kids. Her last one died of SIDS. Asterisk, shifting in my seat, I scribbled down a note reminding myself to deliver my daughter's old baby clothes to the Jacksons' shack. As a mother myself, I know babies can be expensive, asterisk. Dad says she did it on purpose, because she wanted to run off and join the circus. Mom says it wasn't her fault. I promised to keep that secret in the me and her vault. I shook my head in sadness. How could someone blame a grieving mother for something she couldn't control? Mommy was the one Dad chose. He watched all of her school shows. They were joined in the night. Daddy says inside her is a lot of fight. Mom is just a cover, Dad doesn't really love her. Asterisk, I threw my hand up, a gesture meaning stop I had taught my students, but Paisley didn't look up. She continued to read, oblivious to my disappointed frown. Obviously one of her siblings put her up to this as a joke, asterisk. Mommy says she needs to get out. She wants to show me what life is all about. Dad gets mad, it's his biggest pet peeve. Mommy is sad, she just wants to leave. Mommy sings to me her favorite song. Mom says Dad's head is wired wrong. Asterisk, shaking my head, I sighed. Another child with so much potential, and such a kind heart, was stuck in the middle of a lover's quarrel that didn't even involve her, asterisk. Last birthday, I wanted to take Mommy to see her favorite basketball team. Mom made me a cake with frosted buttercream. I got to go see the Knicks, but Dad said he made a mistake he couldn't fix. Nothing is the same anymore. I don't know why for sure. Now Dad cries at night alone. he asks God, what have I done? To mom he no longer tends, she hopes the baby will make amends. Paisley rose her head up with a smile, looking for my approval. Although I was appalled at the inappropriateness of her poem, I didn't want to break her spirits. She clearly was very proud of it, and scolding her for something that wasn't her wrongdoing, was just going to send that little girl back into her shell that I'd been trying to break for months. So instead, I clapped, making the rest of the class, who were too young to understand the gravity of the situation, applaud too. Mrs. June, I brought a picture of mommy for extra credit, it's got one more part of the poem. Can I show the class? I nodded my head, thinking there couldn't possibly be any details worse than what she already presented. Paisley reached into the front pocket on her old worn-out hand-me-down dress, pulling out an old aging photo. She flipped the flaking picture around, displaying it as if it were her most prized possession. My blood ran cold. I finally figured out why Paisley looked so familiar to me. In what seemed to be a school photograph, smiling ear to ear exactly like Paisley, was a young woman by the name of Claire Daisy. She was a high school student, popular for her ability to gain the lead in every school play, that went missing without a trace 12 years prior. She was last seen leaving theater practice late one night, but then she just vanished. No sign of a struggle. No witnesses. No evidence. No body. Nothing. Her case was covered on every news station in Utah for a while, because of how peculiar it was, until people lost interest. Paisley happily continued, I was so in shock I couldn't stop her, as she read off the back of the picture. There is one thing I don't understand, and maybe you'll have the answer at hand. If Dad's love for mommy will never sway, why did he treat her that way? Mom lays her head on a nice soft bed. But mommy sleeps in the basement, under a big slab of cement. https://junepejunejh.wordpress.com